Hello, dear listeners. Well, this week we're going to go deep, but also fun with the great Annabelle Gurwitch. On this week's episode of You Are What You Read, we're going to focus on Annabelle Gurwitch's wonderful new book, The End of My Life is Killing Me, The Unexpected Joys of a Cancer Slacker. So if you've had cancer, if you've survived it, if you are cancer adjacent, you have a friend who has it or somebody in your family, this is a must read for you. Annabelle Gurwitch is an actress and author, and known most notably for her stint co-hosting Dinner and a Movie on TBS, and for her years as a regular commentator on NPR. In The End of My Life is Killing Me, Annabelle just really upends the notion of living each day as if it were your last. She discovers you can maybe do a little too much carpe diem, and she embraces instead the extraordinary of the ordinary. I'm so proud to have her on the podcast. She's one of those multi-talented people you can't get enough of. Ladies and gentlemen, Annabelle Gurwitch. I don't think anybody's written a hilarious primer about facing cancer, not once, twice, but all of the
I'm an overachiever. I'm a cancer overachiever. Let's just
You're a cancer overachiever. The way you find out that you have lung cancer, we'll go with the lung cancer. The way you find it out is almost you have nothing to worry about, and then you get the call, oh, that wasn't your scan. Which is just like, I read that and I just like it on the floor.
This is, I love your work. I write nonfiction because really ridiculous things just happen in my life all the time. It's just I can't make this up. And this is when I say my life went zombie apocalypse, which is my favorite genre of movie, but I never wanted my life to appear like a zombie apocalypse. So, it was in the spring of 2020, and like the COVID moment, terrible. Mm-hmm. Everyone is in a void already. My kid is graduating college, living the dream, coming home to mom in your childhood bedroom after graduating college. So, Ezra gets home. We're trying to be really careful with all the protocols, and we're quarantining in the house, and anyone who's a parent knows how that works out. The idea was Ezra was going to be in the guest bedroom. I would have the run of the house. I'd deliver meals to him. That lasted less than an hour. I was quarantining. He had the house. You know how that goes, right? So finally, 14 days. I mean, we were really trying to be careful because Ezra has some underlying health conditions. Not for me. We were being careful for him. I'm fine. I'm hiking every day. I'm like, at the beginning of COVID, I was like, okay, I'm in boot camp. I was in great shape, felt terrific. We go to get COVID tests so we can combine our households. I mean, it's hard to remember this, but right, you couldn't even get a test. You had to go somewhere.
That's right.
We go to this urgent care in this sleepy little suburb of LA. It's a tiny little joint, and we get these COVID tests. We're fine. But I had mentioned that I had a little cough because they had said, do you have any symptoms? And it was really because I was with my kid. And I'm like, you got to be rigorously honest. I'm trying to still parent my kid who's graduated from college.
That's right.
So I had said, yeah, I have a little cough. And this doctor asked to see us. And he said, you should have an x-ray. And I'm thinking this is like a cosmetic counter upsell, right? You walk in for mascara, you walk out with a pricey night cream. We've all been there. So I decide to have the scan though, because this guy was really adorable. He had like really sparkly eyes and like hair. And I'm like, maybe he has a thing for older women. I seriously thought he was flirting with me. So I agree to have. Who has an X-ray when you're not feeling well? You only have an X-ray if you break your arm at an urgent care. So
Yeah, I would think that that was weird.
yeah, it's
Right on the face of
like
yeah.
who does that, right? Have the X-ray. Going to spend a little more time with this doctor. He comes back in, says, "You're fine." We leave. No problem. We're on our way home, and this is the only time I've lived in Los Angeles 30 years. The highways are empty. It's like the zombie apocalypse. And I'm like, Ezra, this is like the zombie apocalypse. We're in this mountain pass when my tire blows out. Um, I had, during the pandemic, the fender had fallen off my car. I had jerry rigged it with duct tape. I'm like, can do, right? We're at the side of the road. AAA is not coming. I'm like, wow, this is a zombie apocalypse. When AAA is out, you know you're in trouble. The phone rings in the car, and it's the doctor. And I say to Ezra, I mouth the words, Mom still got it. He is going to ask me out. He says, are you alone? I'm like, yes. He says, do you want to take this call by yourself? I'm like, no, it's okay. And he says, I read the wrong scan. You have a concerning mass on your lung. You need to deal with this right away. So this is the zombie apocalypse moment because we're on the side of the road. We're in the middle of nowhere. I've gotten the worst news in
The
front of
worst.
my child. It, that is like, I mean, that's rule number one as a parent, protect the child from bad news. I
That's
mean, no
right.
matter how old they are, right? And
Mhm.
that was so shocking. It was also, you know, the space between like that too soon for humor for me is also, there's never too soon. It was also kind of hilarious. It was so horrible. It was hilarious at the same time. And at that moment, I'm a writer thinking, oh my God, this is a story, you know, this is the story. And then, months of testing till we figure out what it was. And this is this crazy situation that I'm in that sets up the premise for this book. And, I think of this book as a sort of bait and switch. It's a
Mhm.
book that
Mhm.
starts from a diagnosis of a terminal illness. You see that and you're like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. But what it
Mhm.
is a book about is I like to think of this as a book of small rescues against existential despair because
Mm.
I have been spared the cancer journey. And let me just say, I want to punch anyone who uses the word journey. Like, just hate that word. It's just another one of these tropes, that sort of can become imprisoning to you. I'm on a journey. Like, I love a journey. Don't put cancer with the thing I love, which is any journey. I love travel. So keep the two separate. But because we are in this incredible era where they have been able to identify the genes that have mutated that are driving cancers. Now, not all cancer it falls in this category, but many of them do. Brain cancer, breast cancer. There's a number of kinds of cancers where they've been able to um, at this very minute level, look and see where these mutations are happening. And then there are medications that can stop this mutating. And it's targeted. It turns one, I'm taking something, it turns one gene off in my body, just one. I mean, that's
Miraculous.
miraculous. It has transformed care, but there's a catch. I feel like this is like the third act twist, or this is
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
this is where we're at though, and this is why the book is looking at this liminal space, this kind of bardo that one enters when you are on these medications, which is
Well, I just wanted to define it for the audience. A bardo is the Buddhist between the you on Earth and the afterlife. It's that space,
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of
Right.
like the Persephone existence, in
If you're
Greek
Catholic, it's
mythology.
purgatory. If you're Catholic, it's
Purgatory.
purgatory.
Yes. In Greek mythology, Persephone, is kidnapped by Hades, taken to the
Mhm.
underworld. He has fallen in love with her. Her mother is like any Italian, Jewish, well, really, like, she's a Balabusta, right? She
Mhm.
bargains with Hades so that Persephone can spend half her life above ground,
Above
half
ground
of
and
the
half
year
below.
below. So when
Mhm.
Persephone is above ground, this is the coming of spring and summer. When she goes
Mhm.
below, this is autumn and winter. Which I love this image. This image helped me a lot. These Greek mythology helped me a lot to sort of feel, I don't wanna say comforted by this situation,
Mhm.
but to understand it in sort of epic
Mhm.
terms that were very real,
Mhm.
that I was living, and poetic, and, if I can find a
Well, Greek
story.
myth, I
Yes,
mean, Greek myth does play a role in this book
it
because
does.
it is one of the golden threads you pull from beginning to end. So it's almost like you're playing your clock that you feel has a limit to it
Yes.
against the timeless myth of the Greeks.
Well,
And it was very interesting because you also do a deep dive into literature in this book of the writers. I mean, I marked so many spots, and about one this one. T.S. Eliot wrote of measuring life in coffee spoons. I began measuring my life in 3-month increments, which is how often this stealthy disease must be monitored through scans. At the 3-month mark, the tumors at the time of diagnosis had been characterized as clementines, apricots, and walnuts, had shrunk to the size of chickpeas, lentils, and kidney beans. Legumes were an improvement over fruits and nuts. I'd gotten an immediate response, and the oncologist was pleased. I was miserable. Then you go on.
yeah.
I mean, this is a book that anybody, anybody will be uplifted by because everybody knows somebody who has cancer, has it themselves, or is cancer adjacent, gets it, understands it. But you took us, I wrote this down, you're the master craftsman of living in the moment. And you I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Oh, it's so kind. The thing is,
No, it's true.
I found that Greek mythology, and this
Mhm,
is what it was always intended to do. The myths were created in the same way as the Bible and other kinds of texts like that, to offer humans ethical moral compasses. I mean, some of it's a little weird and troubling, and you know,
mhm,
uh, in Ovid's Metamorphosis, the Greek gods are always asserting their power over humans and other gods. They're always turning Poseidon turns pirates into dolphins. Hera turns Io into a cow. It's about transformation, and also wielding power.
mhm,
Some of it is you think,
mhm,
geez, this is how they keep people in line. So
mhm, mhm,
but there's a lot to be learned from this modeling of behavior, like in the Persephone myth. I sought out my own Demeter, which was Persephone's mother, who helped
mhm,
me along my path. But
mhm,
path, another terrible word for this kind of thing. But the issue
mhm.
that became the theme of the book was how to live knowing that this medication is going to stop working at some point. So this creates a kind of existential dread that I felt was relatable, whether you have, cancer, a chronic condition, or
Well,
you're.
don't we all have existential dread? We're all gonna
Yeah,
die.
Not, and then also the times we are living in, the
Exacerbates it, sure.
exacerbates it, and I the FOMO, the kind of strange way
Mhm.
that we've become fragmented as a society, and so this I felt was ultimately what I wanted to write about, was about how I was looking for these small rescues, and what interested me was, how could I distinguish what I was going to find kept me, um, buoyant, kept my
Mhm.
equilibrium from capsizing, that wasn't an eat, pray, love story, honestly. I was writing
Right,
in
right, right.
I and people love that book, but I was writing in opposition to that. What's so and so the idea was, what is what is, what is available to you when the world doesn't give you everything? And so these very small, um, measurements of finding everyday joys became
Mm,
the theme. And so each chapter is about one of these strategies. Not
right.
all of them worked. One of the chapters is about this idea of making a sacred space, a liminal space, a space where time stops and, gets like a healing space
Mhm.
when you're a secular person. You know, for some people, they have a church, a synagogue, a practice like that. I'm a secular person. So what I came up with was taking ukulele lessons with my friends that we share, Jessica Hecht and Nina Bieber, with the goal of not improving. That was really important because it was the idea that we would create this time to be together where we weren't talking about our daily activities. So this was like a sacred space because we were playing music together, but also playing badly. And that was okay. And in fact, we
I
got
just wanna point out to the audience, you gotta know these. Jessica Hecht is one of our national treasures as an
she,
actress, okay?
she
She's a
is.
wonderful actor. Then we've got Nina Bieber, who's one of our great American writers, and dramatists, and then we have you, who does everything. You're an actor, you're a writer, you're all of those things. You're an artist, and so this is really a primer about, as you said, it's the moment to moment, which got me to this conclusion. By the end of the book, I wrote this down. Illness is transformation.
Yes. So this is where, again, Greek mythology came into play. And so
Mhm.
is part of my seeking out what I call the it girls of Greek mythology, instead of the it girls of Instagram. The it girls of Greek mythology, one of them is Daphne. Now, the Daphne figure in Greek mythology is absolutely I became transfixed by
Mhm.
her. I got involved when this happened in cancer advocacy. I was invited to speak. I started writing about my experiences. Some of these pieces have been published in shorter form in the New York Times, Washington Post, and all. So I got invited to speak in Rome, an amazing experience to speak with people going through the same thing I'm going through. And this group in Rome, Women Against Cancer, Lung Cancer in Europe, not to be confused with Women for Lung Cancer in Europe. Not kidding. But this this group, they're particularly they come from all over Italy. We gathered together and we had this summit, and it was so moving. We were all crying because our cross cultural experiences and the way that this had transformed our identity, this experience of living in long term treatment. Because we're not talking about like, oh, you get chemo, you get radiation, you're done. The goal here is to live as long as possible managing this thing. it's really, it's like living with a profound mental illness. You could think of it that way. So, while in Rome, I go to the Borghese Gallery and I see Bernini, one of the masters of Baroque sculpture. I see his Daphne and Apollo, and I've left Persephone behind now. Now I'm like, Daphne is my girl. Daphne is it for me. Daphne was being chased by Apollo. He
Apollo.
Apollo was pursuing her. In the
Hmm.
statue, he has caught her, and she, Daphne, cries out to her father, "Help me, Father, transform my being." And she wants to escape Apollo's clutches. And
Hmm.
the mythology is she's transformed into a laurel tree. And Bernini gives us the moment of transformation. Daphne's hands are turning into leaves, and she is in this pose, and it was so, it struck me, oh, I'm a Daphne. I am transforming. And at that moment, this is a few years ago, Daphne became a um, a symbol for me of metabolizing change, of
Hmm.
metabolizing change. She's becoming a laurel tree. And my first relationship with her, and this is sort of the transformation that I feel that I've made over these few years of living in this bardo, was at
Hmm.
first I found this transformation completely soul. There's a word for it in Spanish, zozobra, a shipwreck of the soul. And then I started to think about Daphne as a, as well, maybe laurel tree is not so terrible. Maybe there's a way we can think of this that is not just a terrible transformation. And then I thought about how ultimately in the mythology, Daphne gets the last laugh. She turns into a laurel tree, and now we use the laurel wreath as a symbol of victory. This is what we crown athletes at the Olympics. We
Hmm.
give these laurels to graduates, and I. So she began to represent this change to me, and I happened to make a pilgrimage last year to see her again. And I had this completely changed relationship to her because I had read a new translation, by the first female translation by Stephanie McCarter of Ovid's Metamorphosis. And I write about this in the book. It turns out that Daphne is the only character in the Metamorphosis who has agency in her transformation. She has called out for transformation. And I thought, yes, Daphne is something we can aspire to because
Hmm.
she's not just, things aren't happening to her. She is saying, yes, I accept this. Yes, I am transforming. She embraces transformation. And so she became my, I don't want to say my guiding spirit. And what I've tried to do in this book, again, in my writing about how I found this kind of empowerment in
Hmm.
this Greek mythology by personalizing it, is to
Hmm.
write to the way that we, when we're going through challenges, we don't have to make everything up ourselves. We can draw upon so many great sources. And
Go
yes,
to the great storytellers and myths
yes,
and the
yes.
time from time immemorial from the
Yes,
Greeks.
and also, I'm sitting here, and I'll take a picture of this for people who are listening on the podcast. I'm at my desk, and I'm sitting in front of my bookcase, and I've put the book covers, the books out that I was reading while I was writing this book, because I felt like I had drawn so much comfort from Barbara
Yeah.
Ehrenreich's writing, from Ariel Gore, from Amy Bloom, from Kate Bowler, from I have no idea how to pronounce Peter The Art of Dying. From He was a New
Mhm.
Yorker art critic.
Mhm.
um, Thornton Wilder's Our Town meant a lot to me. Anne Patchett's These Precious Days. So Anne Patchett's Tom Lake as well. Naomi Klein's Doppelganger. Anyway, I just, at some points I just thought, instead of writing a book, I just want to write on each page. Just go read Lost and Found by Catherine Schultz. I love recommending other uh,
Mhm.
books to
You
people. So
you
actually,
wrote about Catherine Mansfield, the great short
yes,
story writer.
yes.
Can you tell the audience why she matters to you?
There really isn't a day I don't think about Catherine Mansfield, who, in her diaries, I think of her as like the Emily Dickinson of her of her world. Um, is she
Mhm.
Australian or New Zealand? I'm trying to remember which one. Australian? Catherine, someone let us know. I cannot remember now. So, Catherine Mansfield wrote this amongst many great
Mhm.
writings of hers. She wrote this line: "From my life, I write to you, dear friend. From my life, I write to you in your life." And that one sentence has really guided me in
Mhm.
as a writer.
Mhm.
There is something so profound about that sentence, this idea, and just the elegance of the simplicity of the way she says that. The idea that you are bridging that very vast space between um, two people. I find reading to be one of the most intimate experiences. I mean, sure, sex is intimate, but reading, it's a full body experience. I really feel like I can connect in a way that, I mean, this has been my whole life, and I think a lot of us who are readers or writers, we always had this relationship with books. My family, and I don't know if you relate to this too, Adriana, we come from really, we've left our places of origin of our family that were really different than where we've ended up. I'm from a really small town in Alabama.
I'm gonna take you on that. I disagree with that.
Okay, take me
No,
on.
I grew up in Appalachia,
Yeah.
and by the way, this is part of the problem in this country is because I bring my sense of community to my street, to my block.
Yes. Oh,
I know
yes,
that
yes,
you do to your neighborhood too.
yes,
The people here in New York City are not smarter. They are not more streetwise than the people I grew up with in Big Stone Gap, Virginia. And I have said this since I moved here.
yes.
We have more of a common humanity than we know. So I don't consider it far afield. Now you went to a different coast and you have an ocean.
Oh,
So
well,
that's a big deal.
what I mean is, actually, this was my way, reading was my way of,
Mhm.
uh, coping with the moves, because I absolutely I make this
Mhm.
distinction that is so troubling in the book. I write, the book is not primarily focused on the financial impact of our totally dysfunctional healthcare system. But one of the things I do is compare survival rates of my disease to survival rates of my hometown in Alabama. And they are vastly different because we refuse as a country to think of all of us as one country. As if we aren't people who are all the same, and as if we aren't people who move back and forth. What I meant was that we moved around a lot when I was a kid, and books were my constant. That was what I meant because,
Well, it's
you know,
it's very clear to me that the books, that reading for you is your spiritual life.
yes, when we moved from Alabama to Delaware, which was the first big move we had in my family, it was incredibly abrupt. Um, my dad and his family had a falling out. We were basically run out of town in the middle of the night. My dad was persona non grata in Mobile. My dad was something of a grifter, it's true. And so we packed up everything we owned in our wood panel
Wow.
station wagon and hit the road. We lost our house, his business, and we went to Delaware to move in with my mother's sister. And my mother was so depressed that she didn't get out of bed for months. And I was getting teased in school about my Southern accent. So books were my the books were my solace. So
Now, can
that
you tell me can you tell me who was in that station wagon? Mom, dad, you? Do you have siblings?
and my sister and our dog, Petey. And that's and they told us we were going on a trip to see America, which we did. We stopped in Williamsburg and Philadelphia on the way. We just
Mhm.
didn't go back home because we didn't have that home anymore. So,
And Annabelle, can you share with the listeners?
yeah.
Because this was really interesting to me as I was reading. Because the way you cope with things is very deeply. You're on a hunt. You, if you don't find an answer one place, you read something else. I mean, I found the book very, very empowering.
Oh, I'm so
This is
glad.
my question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, this is my question. Will you explain to the listener who might not share your experience
Mhm.
what it does to a person to grow up in economic uncertainty in the United States of America?
Oh, Adriana, this experience of economic volatility and uncertainty and not having a uh, a safety net, it is so profoundly shapes the way you see the world. Now, I want to make it clear that we still had the advantage of family, and family that had enough resources that they could, I mean, I shared a bedroom with my cousins. It wasn't my grandmother paid for, we didn't have the money for winter coats. My uncle gave us winter coats and mittens. My sister still has those mittens. She kept them after all these years. My grandmother, who worked for the Social Security Department as a clerk, uh, gave my aunt money for to feed us. I mean, we had as terrifying and terrible as it was, we weren't living in our car. We had shelter and we had food and we had connections. Not everyone has that. So there's a
But
and
but it
yeah,
seems like your mom was debilitated by it and had shame
completely.
about it. Did
Oh,
you girls
completely.
have shame,
Yeah.
and did your father have shame?
Oh, my father was shameless. He was a complete grifter, kind of sociopathic in that sense because he just um, did not acknowledge the kind of profound effect it had on our family, our whole lives. There were many bankruptcies and all kinds of um, untoward dealings that also, I mean, with distance, my God, he gave me some great stories. I mean, I went to a casino with him once. He was a gambler in businesses. At one point, he bought and arranged for financing for Grand Union Station in St. Louis. He had these architectural plans to restore the station that actually came to fruition, not with him, with another company. That bankrupted us, and I dropped out of college when we lost that money. And I couldn't get financial aid because it turned out my parents hadn't paid taxes, so they didn't have tax returns. I mean, it was, this was this kind of blows throughout my entire life that would come. But going to the casino with my dad and seeing people, I did this in my 50s because I was always afraid to do this. Um, Going to see him play poker and finding out that everyone in this casino, it was like we walked into his church. "Harry, how you doing? How's Shirley feeling? You must be the daughter who lives in Cal—" They knew everything about me. It was like this was his community. It was and watching him with his like complete poker face, it was fascinating. But this growing up in this experience, it's something. It's deeply scarring. I have that, a poverty mentality where I've had to work really hard not to feel every moment of the day like I'm going to lose everything. And that's something that, that this is part of also the immigrant experience. And,
Sure,
we were
sure.
people, we were marginalized people in Russia. My family, there were a lot of immigrants who came over at the same time my family came over in the early part of the
Mhm,
20th century. The
mhm.
Austro-Hungarian Jewish community was, some of them were very wealthy. I mean, you had people coming in very different states. You had people who had survived camps coming destitute. You had people from wealthier families who came a little bit earlier with great wealth. My family came, they were furriers who worked along the Mississippi. They were shipbuilders. I mean, and then they became bootleggers. And they worked the margins of society. So this is the deep, background of my family. But this is why this immigrant experience, and the immigrant experience that wasn't from a position of wealth, is one of the things, Adriana, that has. um inspired me to join up with our mutual friend Jessica Heck's organization she founded called the Campfire Project. We it was started as a therapeutic arts programming for young people in refugee spaces. Jessica started this, and I got recruited into it, and Nina Bieber, our friend, got recruited into it. It was started when she was doing Fiddler on the Roof, and she got very um, uh, possessed by the idea of bringing arts to people in refugee camps. And she started going to Moldova and Greece, where Syrians were landing. I joined the project after being diagnosed with lung cancer. After I started treatment, Jessica asked me if I wanted to be a part of this and do writing workshops. And I said yes. And she said, "Great, we're going to northern Uganda." And
Oh my
I
gosh,
said,
that's
"Okay, I'm in."
beautiful.
I'm in. My family was very concerned for me. I got permission from my doctors, although, we were beyond we were in the northern part of the West Nile Valley, which is barely accessible. There's just one ferry that goes there. It was a little bit
So in a sense,
dangerous, but yeah.
that experience to go and serve,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
helped you navigate the American healthcare system.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it puts your own life in perspective,
Sure.
but also it was such a profound experience because one of the things that happens when you have a transformational moment, like being diagnosed with a
Mhm.
terminal illness, or if you lose your house in a fire. I mean,
Mhm.
there are so many ways in which I
Yeah.
think this is a common experience. But when you are immersed in acts of service, it gives you you still have the same set of challenges, but it gives you a break from your own life. And it filled me with so much that reignited my spirit. I as I say in the book, love a massage, love a spa day,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I when and so now with Campfire, what we do, because the place of greatest need is in this country, we work in
Sure.
New York City with young migrants seeking asylum. And the thing is, and it's really a funny thing. Someone said to me, when I've seen pictures of you when we're taking these candid shots at Campfire, I've never seen you. You never look so happy as when you're there. And this is the thing, is when I am engaged in these projects and we have this you know the Campfire spirit is that this is Jessica's idea, is that you build a fire to gather the community around, to share resources, to tell stories, to keep yourselves going through the night. And that night can be a lifetime, right? But when we're there, I teach writing workshops. I am sometimes lunch lady. I am sometimes the person who sets up and cleans up. We do whatever is needed. And in the time that I spend with these young people who I believe are our best hope for a great future for our country, I'm not me. I'm not Annabelle living with stage 4 cancer. The existential dread just falls away to this greater purpose and to being of service. And it is my most joyful place. I feel so privileged to be just a tiny doing, Meep Geis, who was the woman who worked for Anne Frank's father, Otto Frank, and who kept the family safe. What was so profound, she said, "Be a small light." And Campfire, for instance, we're not an organization where we say, we help millions of people across the globe. We do this very small project, but it's so meaningful to me. And this is one of the things I'm writing about in the book, is we think we need certain things. We think and not that a certain amount of, I mean, my friends, family, community have rallied around me during these years. We think we want that and attention, and that is great, but the redemptive power of anonymity cannot be denied. To be an auntie to these young men from Guinea, many of whom have lost their mothers, I, I am so grateful for that. It's also these experiences, like so many things in life, if you're listening, uh, really change the way you see the world in the most unexpected ways. And that, of course, this is a book about staying curious, being curious about the world. So we're at Campfire. And this is a couple months ago. And I said to Jessica, Jessica, I'm a little concerned. Do you think these guys uh, feel okay that a lot of us volunteers are middle-aged to senior-aged women? and, and and she said, because this is my assumption, like, oh my God, they must come here on Sundays when we're getting together or when we do week-long workshops and think, geez, these ladies, they're just hovering around us. And she said, oh, Annabelle, many of these young men have lost their mothers, so they really love this maternal energy. We they live in a system of aunties, and we're their aunties. And up until that moment, I had thought it was a mark against us that we were these. women. But no, in fact, this was actually what they liked about being around us. And I thought, you know, I'm always thinking like this. Oh, okay, Annabelle, remember this moment. This is a moment where your expectations and the reality are so far apart. And that is also what I'm always hoping to write to Adriana is the space between expectation and reality of whatever experience is. And it so happens that that space is also usually really funny because what you expect and what is actually happening is so different.
That is your gift, is your humor, along with your keen intellect and your life experience. And what's so interesting to me to hear you speak about the campfire project is that really nothing in the Gurwitch trajectory and experience has changed very much. You came over from Europe. You're still with the migrants. You're still with the immigrants. You're still honoring them. They're your extended family now. You're an auntie, an auntie. I mean, this is all so fascinating. And that's another reason that I have to tell you the book brought me such great comfort because I think you're leading the examined life here, Annabelle. You're looking at everything and oh, this is the hardest part for me to say. You're looking at everything and you're expecting absolutely nothing. And what you gave us was everything.
Well, you're so kind. Actually, I'm going to cry because of something you just said that you're not going to think what it was that is making me cry is that I just remembered something, which is
What's
that,
that?
you know, um, my ancestors would be turning in their graves because my great grandfather was a what they called a swayback mule junk dealer. This is the story of Fiddler on the Roof. He
Yeah.
traveled from shtetl to shtetl with like pots and pans on the back of a mule, and I think sometimes that being a writer is very much like being a swayback mule junk dealer. I will sell you my book from the trunk of my car. Just-
I don't think you have to do that because Zibby published you. I think you're okay there. I think you're going to be in some chic stores where the
oh,
ladies can come and see and have a glass of wine. I don't think we're going to be on the side of the road with a mule.
you know what? Actually, I think it's a combination of my Taurus, a combination of both. And the thing is that I actually think this is the truth, which is that they believe that there was this better life ahead. But in some
Sure.
ways, when I think about like the Amazon warehouses, you know, I try to go to small businesses. If there was a swayback mule junk dealer in my neighborhood, I would go to them.
It's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Well, I want to just tell you, Annabelle Gurwitch, we're super fans of yours over here. We have loved you all these years and have been so uplifted by your work and the hilarity of it. But it's really, you read Annabelle Gurwitch and you've made a friend, is how I feel about you.
Okay, that is so sweet you said that. And I
It's
have to
true. And
tell
I and
you,
I keep making you cry and I don't mean to.
well, I have to tell you just such a funny thing that our friend Nina Bieber,
Yeah.
extraordinary playwright and my friend since childhood, said to me when I first started writing. This is my second career after acting. I was Nina was an established writer. I was starting to write, and I was my relationship with books has always been so profoundly humbling. I really did not know what a life in writing could look like. And I said to Nina, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't really know how to do this. And she said, you need to look to Adriana. And I said, "What? I need to just be an amazingly great writer? Oh, okay. I'm just going to do that." And she said, it's not only Adriana's brilliance as a writer,
Oh my
it's the
God.
way
Thank
she
you.
interacts with the community, the way she uplifts the community. And so that was my first, you were my first sort of guiding principle, my guiding light in terms
Oh,
of
well,
what
thank
a
you for that.
writer's life could look like. So I'm
I,
just
I thank you
following in
for
your
that.
footsteps.
Oh,
I
listen,
couldn't make that up. It
I
was
know
she
that's
said.
unbelievable to me, but isn't it funny that that's
Yeah.
what you do for me when I read you?
Huh. Well, that's
Isn't that
just
funny? That's
I
just life, isn't it? That's just
yeah.
life in a nutshell right there.
Yeah.
Is you think it's one thing, but in fact, it's a bouquet of something that you weren't expecting. It's really beautiful. And
I love how the world and writing has, for instance, brought us, my sister always says, we're just two little girls from Mobile, Alabama. We come from these disparate places, and yet, as you said, and I really believe our commonalities are so great, and here we are sharing in our love
well,
of art and literature.
you and your sister and Nina and Jessica, you all pull the wagon forward. We're all in this together. We're coping, we're living, we're trying to thrive and send a message that you're going to find yourself when you read, when you connect to an author.
Mhm.
And I want everybody to come out and see you as this book comes out. I think you've got a big old hit on your hands because we can all relate to it. And your writing is absolutely beautiful. So thank you, Annabelle, for coming on.
Oh, thanks, Adriana, really.